Hey everybody, it's Chris. We are back talking about something new. I've just been putting together I'm calling it supernatural, marvelic, modern day manifestations of superpower abilities. And this follows up with my Marvel Dream Revelations ebook and the video series that I've been doing. I put together a whole bunch of little social media posts and decided to make a video out of it because I wanted to explain them and walk through it. And actually talk through it, not just put them up there and scroll through with music in the background. So that's what I'm doing today. I got a bunch of these here. I think I've actually got like 17 of them. And mostly these are just little graphical images that give a simple summary of many of the Marvel abilities I've seen in my own dreams. Now you say, why am I doing this? Well, it's probably because, I'm part of a global ministry, the only one I know of that actually really emphasizes Marvel abilities. And that's because, as we're learning, this is koggc.org or JMMI, we are learning that this is the move of God right now. This is the main thing. That we're not the prophetic thing and the apostolic thing and all that stuff that is outdated. In fact, it's been outdated for 20 to 30 years now. But as usual, the church is usually stuck in the past. Hate to say it, but it's true. And that's not where God is. So if you're following all this prophetic stuff and you think that's the big thing, that is so far in the past, you're kind of like in the ancient dinosaur realm. And, I try to tell people this, but the number of people that actually catch on, it's like they'd rather stay where they're comfortable. They'd rather stay and that's the childish, that's not even childish, that's the baby level. You get spiritual gifts when you're at the level of a baby. You see in the Bible, Jesus was telling his first 12 apostles, disciples, he was telling them to go out and do things. And he said later that they were he called them babes. He said God is revealing things to babes. And he didn't just say that as an offhand casual remark. A lot of stuff we say is kind of casual. We don't use our words very well, but Jesus was very specific. God is very specific all throughout the Bible, extremely specific, to the extent that we a lot of times miss things because he is so specific that it's like the level of technicality, like technical details. Like if you're an engineer, the criticality of technical details, like down to, microscopic levels. God is like that. I learned that more than 20 years ago. God is extremely specific when he says something. And so, of course, we usually miss that. And we've really been dumbed down by the church into thinking that God just is like one of us and he doesn't do that kind of thing. Well, anyway, you miss a lot when you stick with that kind of stuff. And so, anyway, to get back on track here, I kind of got way off track, but there's a point to all this, is that Jesus was he was making comments about things all throughout the Gospels, and he said at one point that his disciples, he called them, they were babes, like God had revealed things to babes. And so the level of spiritual gifts is at the baby level. So if you're still in all the prophetic thing and words of knowledge and calling names and that kind of thing, you're still at the level of a baby. You're nowhere near sonship, and you're not even at the child level, which is really bad. So we got to make distinctions, and I've been talking about distinctions in my blog for a long time. My blog, of course, chrismichaels.com. And so I learned this like at least 10 years ago, that God makes very one way you can determine someone's level of maturity, one way is that they understand distinctions properly. And so, and that does include the three levels, like I mentioned in the past, of maturity: baby, child, and full sonship. Sonship is what we're talking about today with Marvel abilities, supernatural marvels. And it's funny, I've also been learning that you don't even have to be at the full sonship level to do some of these things, which was kind of a shock to me when I found out, although I was kind of wondering about it. But anyway, we are dealing with Marvel abilities, and so I'm just going to go through all the slides that I made. And like I said, they're simple graphical images that help you kind of help you remember and put into like a graphical memory aid a lot of these abilities. And you should be asking God for these also. You should be. That's the new move. And if you're not connected with that, you're going to miss out completely. So again, supernatural marvels are the new thing that God is pushing right now, and there's reasons for that. There's lots of reasons. It's not like some, we're not kind of following with movies. Movies are God's way of using the secular world to bring on the scene something the church is not tuned in with at all, because of the reasons I just said. So we are, God's using those. And I figured this out 8 to 10 years ago when suddenly the light went on for me. I wasn't paying attention to movies, and all of a sudden, here I go. God starts showing me stuff that connects with these movies. And it just jumped out at me. And all of a sudden, then I realized I better start watching all these Marvel movies and the DC comic series, all that, The Flash, all that. And a lot of this stuff started showing up in my dreams. It wasn't always connected with a movie. There was a lot of symbolism that I've talked about. It's in my Marvel Dream Revelations ebook. I've detailed many of the dreams in there, also in the video series that goes along with that ebook. Now you see it's got a nice new cover now. The ebook does. It looks a little bit more like the theme that you see here on my new images. And so anyway, God started showing me things that did connect with the movies, but it wasn't just limited to that because of, like I say, I've explained a lot of these, and I've explained the details of how I went line by line through all the primary symbols, and you can see, what all these abilities are. And I was really surprised that he even showed me such things, because I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was qualified. I thought I had too much stuff wrong with me. And come to find out that there's a point to where that's true, but that is also not true, because you cannot raise, as we've been finding out, you cannot raise righteousness above faith. Those are two different things. Yes, we're supposed to strive to improve our character and all that kind of stuff, but at no time does that overshadow the necessity of faith and acting in faith. Peter, as a great example, Peter walked on water, and he was still completely screwed up. He was getting ready he tried to cut a man's head off. He missed and got the ear when Jesus was arrested. Jesus told him, he was still warning him about his character. So Peter was totally screwed up, but he was the only one that walked on water. So how good you are in terms of righteousness has absolutely nothing to do with whether you can operate in faith and operate in marvels. It's got nothing to do with that at all. But you still want to work on those things, because you don't want to have all kinds of supernatural abilities and end up in hell. Because Lucifer had a ton of supernatural abilities, and he is on his way to hell, of course. He became the enemy, as we know. So there are different aspects of this, which is why I say if you're not following the global ministry I'm part of, you're not going to know this stuff. I can only give you so much, and my point of doing this is really a second witness. It's a testimony that everything we learn from Apostle Taylor is true. And if God can show me this stuff, I consider myself one of the least likely people, and very much unqualified in many ways, probably because of my intellectual blockage that was so hard for me to grasp the supernatural, starting way back, over 12 years ago now. It was very hard for me to grasp this. And coming out of that dead, false church teaching that everything ended 2,000 years ago, that is such garbage. That's a satanic lie right there. And I mentioned that. I have explained that in my Marvel Dream Revelations ebook. So if you're still in that evangelical stuff where they're teaching that, you need to get out of there immediately, because that's a satanic lie. You'll never come into this. You'll never find out what God really put you here for if you're going to stay stuck with that stuff. And I do actually have people emailing me dreams that are in that. So I do have to point that out. It's not just, and it's not like being in the Pentecostal church is such a great thing, because they all are in the category of what I said at the beginning of this. They're going nowhere. They're still stuck in the outdated stuff. The evangelical church doesn't believe in prophets or apostles anymore. They don't believe in anything supernatural. And the Pentecostal church doesn't believe in anything beyond the baby level. So, I went through this process, and during the last 12 to, let's go back to 2010, 14 years, and I started going through this. I had this war in my head, like how did I learn all these things that now I find out are wrong? And there is a supernatural. God does speak in dreams, and now Marvel abilities. And and by the way, I'm going to mention something in here, I hope, if I don't forget, that there is actually a realm beyond marvels, and God actually showed me that in dreams, that he's showing me I have a calling to something beyond the level of just marvels. Marvels is very big. It's the church, like I said, is so far behind, they're not even at this level, and yet God is already showing some people, including me, the realm beyond marvels. And Apostle Taylor just explained that this last few days ago. And he just gave the brief intro to that. He hasn't even taught fully on that. But I was shocked to see that one of my dreams had that in there. It was really shocking. So anyway, like I say, I'm like the least likely person, least qualified, and God is showing me this. What does that say? That tells you that every single thing we're learning about marvels, especially from Apostle Taylor, is true, is absolutely true. And so again, God says, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. And what I am telling you is that witness right there. So, okay, supernatural marvelic. I had to change this from supernatural marvels because the official logo that JMMI is using says God's supernatural marvels. Now that sounds better than this is a little bit clumsy what I came up with here, but I had to make sure I'm not overstepping on. I want to make it a distinction again that I'm not trying to copy them. I'm not trying to overstep and confuse people with now I'm talking the same thing and using the same words. Now you're not going to know, well, who's the one posting what? I want there to be a distinction. What I create based on what God has shown me personally in my dreams and what manifestations I will have, I want to make a distinction. So you know what is my content and what is theirs. Of course, if it wasn't for JMMI, I wouldn't have any of this at all. So I'm following, of course, what you see there, but I had to make a distinction in the wording and even the little graphical image I created there with the lightning bolt and the supernatural marvelic. So I'm going to say things differently, just so you know there's a difference between, we're supposed to make distinctions. Anyway, it's also about not overstepping and not trying to steal. Like some of these idiots out there, I got to call them, that's what they are. So there are some prophetic people out there that they make a whole lifetime of stealing what Apostle Taylor says, and then they go and repackage it and preach it as if it was their own revelation. It's not. They're liars. If they don't mention him specifically, they're liars, because there's only one man that's got all this kind of thing. And so I always give credit to the source. I graduated from the Air Force Academy a few decades ago, and we had a very strict rule. It was, I will not lie, steal, cheat, nor tolerate among us anyone who does. You hear that? There was a toleration clause. If you tolerate people that are liars or stealers or cheaters, you will be thrown out of the academy. And they did. They threw people out. There was one guy, 2 weeks before graduation, he was a senior like me, and they threw him out 2 weeks before graduation. They denied him a diploma from the academy because he lied on a test. He lied on a final exam. He cheated, and they threw him out. So to this day, he cannot be considered an Air Force Academy graduate because 2 weeks before graduation, he lied and he cheated. So we had a very strict clause, but it's amazing out there, all these dishonest preachers that go around stealing stuff. I can't believe it. This is so common. And so you always hear me giving credit to the source. Okay. So if you're one of these people and you discovered somebody doing what I just said, you need to stop following them. Stop following these liars. Okay. So, dealing with marvels, modern-day biblical superpower abilities revealed in dreams. So that is the focus, is what God has shown me in dreams, and all these 17 images. Most of them, I'm going to tell you the exceptions. I think there's one exception here that I have not seen in a dream, but I had to make an image because it ties in with one that I have had, and I'll explain that when we get there. So, all right. So unfortunately, my primary video source here was not working at all. It was the one that I kept doing, and it had no volume whatsoever. I kind of had to dump that thing and go back to the clumsy way of doing this manually, which is kind of horrible. But here we go. Anyway, so okay. Again, the biblical basis, the starting point in the Bible for marvels, where it even says that in the King James, Exodus 34:10, and he said, behold, I make a covenant before all thy people. I will do marvels, such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation, and all the people among which thou art shall see the work of the Lord, for it is a terrible thing that I will do with thee. Now that was God speaking to Moses. Okay, so let's move on. I thought the first place to start with, and this was the first image I created, and then I made all the others, was the one on dominion over time and space. Now, we see in the book of Joshua that Joshua spoke to the sun and moon and controlled time. And guess what? We are able to do that today also. And I had this in dreams. I was shown things in dreams about controlling time in the same exact way. Actually stopping the sun and moon. Now, when I first had that dream, it was a month later, I thought it was going to happen in real life. I thought that dream that I saw, where it was like 11 p.m., I'm driving through the hills of New York on a long drive down south, and I thought the thing was going to happen. And I'll tell you what, it didn't happen, and I was confused by that. But I also have been learning since then what you have to do in order to develop these and make them happen. And you probably saw, hopefully, you saw a video I posted on God showing me how to bring these into reality, because you're going to wonder, if God shows you something, some kind of marvelic dream, you're going to want to know, how do you make it happen in real life? And a lot of the dreams I've had, I'm still been going after the manifestation of them. And so you're going to end up in the same boat. You're probably going to have dreams. You're going to say, and hopefully you're going to ask the question, how do I make this happen in real life? So I've had these for several years now. And now we're learning at JMMI how to go about the process of developing and activating them and making them happen. And there is a lot you got to do. It's a lot. It requires serious effort. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. You're gonna have dreams about this supernatural abilities, and nothing's gonna happen, and you're gonna wonder why. Eventually, you're gonna forget about it completely, and the whole thing will be lost in space. It's just gonna vanish in thin air. So you have to realize there is effort. You must put serious effort into making these happen. So I've been dealing with that. Actually, in the last month or so, I had another dream following up. I talked about the tennis serve dream, which showed me practicing. I had another one following up on that. It's a bit technical, and I don't want to get into that right now, but just to say that it did emphasize, again, the requirement to practice. And as I practice using the imagination, it's going to go back and forth between, there's going to be a crossover point between the imagination and reality. And that's something I talked about in the Marvel Dream Revelation ebook, especially the new one. I did a whole section on that. And it's going to be in the phase 2 product, where I talk about manifestations of that. And actually, there have been a couple of manifestations of Marvelic abilities already. I've seen some things happen already, but we're not going to get into that too much right now. Okay, so modern day supernatural Marvelic, dominion over time and space. Now, in the Psalms, Psalm 8, verse 6, it says, thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet. I believe that was David, King David talking. And he's saying how he looks up in the sky and he considers all the things God has created in the whole universe. He considers them, what he can see in the night sky and in the daytime, the sun, the moon, the stars, and he considers them, and he knows that God has put all those things under our feet. We have dominion over that. Go back to Genesis. God made us to have dominion over that in the beginning. And so, when you get to Joshua, you see that he did. He exercised that. And he just stopped the sun and moon by speaking to it. And so we can have dominion over time and space now. We can even change time and back it up. And you got to hear the testimonies and the teaching from Apostle Taylor, how he did that also. He actually backed up time. And no one knew it but him. Well, his staff knew it because they saw it. They saw it happen at an airport. He backed it up. And I heard personally, when I was there a few years ago, I heard one of the people on the staff telling how they actually observed it happen. They actually saw all of a sudden it was an hour and a half earlier than it had been when they walked into the airport. The clock just went back an hour and a half. They actually saw the thing happen. They physically saw it. So it's not like there's one person saying this and no one else is seeing it. No, people have actually witnessed this happen. So you can control time. And you don't have to be a high-level apostle to do it. Why do you think he's teaching us? He's teaching us because we are expected to do this. God expects us to do these things. If you're not doing this and he hasn't been showing you dreams, like I say, you need to get with it because you're going to miss everything that God is emphasizing right now. And the world has become so completely evil at such a rapid pace. If you really think the stuff the church is doing is going to change that, it's not. It hasn't worked. The definition of an idiot is someone who keeps doing the same thing over and over again, each time expecting a different result. Well, that's the church. They're stuck in the realm of an idiot right now. They keep doing the same stuff, and they don't even stop to ask the question, why is this not working? I learned this in the military. If you're using a strategy that isn't working in the military, you're going to die. You got to change your strategy. It's critical. It is extremely critical. You must change your strategy now, immediately. Otherwise, you're going to die. Oh, but the church hasn't gotten to this point. They haven't reached that level of intellectual height yet. I just don't get. They're so stuck in their mind, and yet they haven't even used their mind the way God created it. So you really need to get beyond that. You need to realize that Marvel abilities are one of the only things that's going to stop this world from getting more and more extremely wicked. Extreme. You've got to have this kind of power. If you cannot demonstrate this power, the world does not care about your words. They don't care about preachers. I even saw it in a movie, something that Tom Holland was in. The guy that played Spider-Man, the newer version. He was in some movie. I don't remember the name of it. They all ended up on some planet. Their spaceship crash landed there, and he was talking. And there was some guy who was a preacher, and he was horrible. I mean, he was actually an evil preacher. He was very judgmental and nasty, which kind of does explain. It does illustrate some churches right now. And I should know. I came out of some of that stuff. And he said in there, Tom Holland, the character he played, he said, no one goes to church anymore. I mean, I was so shocked. I thought, you know what? You are completely right. No one does in the big scheme of things, and because nobody cares. Nobody cares. That's why the church is irrelevant. It's got no power. It doesn't demonstrate God. Doesn't bring God in the scene. Doesn't prove to sinners that God is real, and you must fear Him, and you're going to meet with Him. And if you don't get that clue now, you're going to end up in hell. And of course, that really relates to a lot of church people, unfortunately, also. But anyway, Tom Holland, I don't remember the name of the movie, but it had this big spaceship in it, and they crashed there. And I think it was on Netflix. So anyway, okay, that is the reason why we have to operate in Marvel abilities. And not to mention, it is because God originally created us to do this. We are originally created, and it's all throughout the Bible. The more you get tuned into this, the more you see all throughout the Bible, there are Marvel abilities in places that we didn't even see, we didn't even realize that it was happening. Like with Ezekiel, that was a marvel. He actually did raise. It's not an allegory. It's not a symbol. It's not a prophetic gesture. It's not a nice thing to say, and especially it's not just a thing about, modern day Israel. It's not a parable. No, Ezekiel actually raised an entire army from the dead. That was a literal resurrection, a mass resurrection. He actually did that. And if you're like me, you came from a church that made it a big allegory and just a little mystical kind of a parable about your future or something going on with Israel. And no, that's not what it was. He literally raised an army from the dead, literally. Okay, so that's just one example of many. Or it talks about how King David, he had supernatural power, and in fact, to the extent that his entire army of men, they also had supernatural abilities. They had super strength and speed and power, and they could defeat an army. They could defeat an army many times bigger because they had supernatural abilities. Okay, I'm just saying, giving examples of places where we've seen this and missed it and ran over the top and didn't realize those are Marvel abilities right there. And guess what? We are expected to operate in that right now. That's why I put on the top of these modern day supernatural Marvelic. Okay, let's move on. Dominion over air. Okay, I'm going to tell you, I saw this in a dream. It was 3 or 4 years ago. I actually saw a tornado coming in the backyard of the house I was living in at the time. And by speaking commands, I caused it to stop instantly. Okay. Now, you could say, well, a tornado could symbolically represent a personal storm. Yes, it could. And I know that there was something going on at the time. I actually did stop a personal situation by speaking to it because the thing never happened. And it wasn't shown in the dream. The dream didn't show anything about a personal situation. It showed a literal tornado. And I knew there was something going on personally within days after that. I did stop that from happening. The thing never happened. But God wasn't talking to me. He wasn't talking to me just about that. He was talking about literal controlling weather. actually speaking to a tornado and stopping it. So in the dream, I did that. And so that's why I put dominion over air. We're supposed to have dominion over the 5 elements of creation. And I'm going to go through each one of them. Now, I just went through time and space. So that is one element. Time, space is an element of creation. Air is another element. And I talked about that in different ways, in other ways in my ebook, The Marvel Dream Revelations. I did talk about a different manifestation I saw of that. I'm not going to get into all that stuff here because we'll be here forever. By the way, you see the Bible verses on the bottom of all these images I created, the social media posts. Okay, there's reasons I wanted to link that to the Bible. And some of them, you might, well, let's just say I try to be as straightforward as possible. Like you see Jesus, okay, in this one here, Mark 4:39, Jesus rebuked the wind and said to the sea, peace be still, and the wind ceased, and there was a great calm, like instantly. Okay, a lot of the verses I attached to the images here, or I pasted on the image, are directed like that, but some of them go beyond that. And if you don't understand the revelation behind this, then you're going to miss what was in the verse. So you might miss some of the things I posted here. But that is the biblical justification, or the reference in the Bible where these modern day supernatural marvel abilities, where you can go back to that. And so these are images you can look at and see this is what we're supposed to do. It's an example. And there's just an example. I have more examples of Bible verses in my ebook, but I can't give all that here. It's just supposed to be very simple. So now let's move on to dominion over water. I did see myself walking on water. And I detailed that in the ebook. We are supposed to be able to do that now. Yes, there is a symbolic version of that, but if you're going to get stuck only on the realm of symbolic meanings, you're going to miss the actual marvel ability that we are supposed to operate in. We're supposed to have dominion over water. You're supposed to be able to walk on it. Now, this is when you need to. If you try to go walk out right now, there's a good chance nothing's going to happen. Why? Because you don't need to. It's when you need to have it happen. Then Jesus did not go splitting the Red Sea. He didn't split the Red Sea. He didn't split the Sea of Galilee when he walked from one end to the other. Why? He didn't need to. He didn't have thousands of people behind him. He could have done that if he wanted to have thousands of people cross the Sea of Galilee, but he didn't. And we learned this at JMI. I learned this from Apostle Taylor. You have to have wisdom in how you use abilities like this. So if you're just going to try to do something as a stunt, there's a good chance God's not going to let it happen. He's not going to give you power to do a stunt act. There has to be a reason behind it. So if you have a reason to walk on water, you'll do it. And in the dream, it was so natural. In the dream, I didn't even stop to think that I was actually walking on water. I just did it as if it was perfectly normal. It wasn't until I woke up from the dream, it was like, holy crap, I was actually walking on water as if it was a solid substance. And I was even doing it with a boat right next to me going through the water. And I even walked in front of the boat and around the boat while it was going through the water. It was so natural. And so, like I say, and we'll get to another dream where I also felt so natural that there was nothing wrong with it. Okay, dominion over water. Now let's move on. Okay, here's one I've seen several times. Power with lightning. I've had that several times also with extreme electrical power that didn't come from lightning, but it came through a train track. And I did explain that one. I believe I explained that in the version 2.0 of the Marvel Dream Revelations. I think I explained that one. It showed an extreme level of power that you can't even produce that on Earth. What I saw was like plasma energy that we don't have anything on Earth that can create such a level of power. I was shocked when I saw that because I knew it was about me, and there was something going on at the time. I'm not going to get into it, but there was something going on. It was short-circuiting the power that should have been operating through me, and that's what the message was. Two things: it was showing a short circuit with me because of things going on, and it was also showing me the level of power that God was making available to me. Literally electrical energy, lightning power. And I've seen this, like I say, several times now. And that is also, you can see that Moses, when he stretched his rod toward heaven, Exodus 9, verse 23, and Moses stretched forth his rod toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and fire ran along the ground. And the Lord rained hail upon the land of Egypt. It's funny that when I picked this image here, okay, what do you see at the bottom? You see the lightning in the sky? I had to look at this closely. I picked the image, and all of a sudden I realized like a day after I did this, I'm like, those are pyramids at the bottom of the image. So anyway, I knew that was the right image to use, and I didn't realize until later those are actually pyramids. So just happened to be perfect choice. So okay, so when a lot of times you see the stuff that Moses did. God actually gave him the ability to use those powers. So when he raised his rod and the sea split and, lightning came down, hail, this kind of thing, or he caused locusts to come. He literally had power of creation. He was given power of the elements of creation. When he turned his stick into a snake and then back again, it's because God gave him power over creation. He made him a little God. God actually made him a little God. And that's what we are all supposed to be made into that. We're supposed to go through a process of becoming that. We're not instantly given that. We're supposed to go through that process. It's the process of sonship. And a little God, I mentioned this, I explain this quite thoroughly in my ebook. Okay, so lightning power, I've seen that in my dreams. Okay, now here's the one I have not seen. Dominion over fire, or power with fire. Elijah had that. 2 Kings chapter 1, verse 10, and Elijah answered and said to the captain of 50, if I be a man of God, then let fire come down from heaven and consume thee and thy 50. And there came down fire from heaven and consumed him and his 50. Okay, some people are going to stop right there and say, well, Jesus told his disciples that you don't know what spirit you're of because you're not supposed to be calling down fire. Yeah, at the time, because there's a reason for that, and you only learn from the man I keep talking about, my spiritual father, mentor for some of you people that, you haven't heard of the term spiritual father yet. Apostle Taylor, David E. Taylor, he teaches why the disciples were not supposed to call down fire. There was a reason. That was not a future prohibition. It was only for that circumstance. Why? Because Jesus was not sent here to judge and condemn people. He was sent here to save. And if he had allowed his disciples to start killing people left and right, like Elijah did and Moses did also by causing the earth to open up and swallow 3,000 people, if he would have done that, it would have negated his mission to be a savior. So he couldn't have his disciples doing that. But you go to the book of Acts, and 2 people drop dead in front of, I think it was Peter, and then Ananias and Sapphira, and then Paul spoke blindness on someone. He literally did it because he had the power to curse people. Okay, so if you don't think supernatural abilities with judgment are possible or allowable for today, that's because you're still stuck in the childish realm of the church where they still don't get it. They don't know anything. Okay, I'm going to get off that. But there are ways, there are reasons to use that today. And I've seen stuff happen in dreams. I've had God show me he would kill people if they attacked me in certain ways. And I also explained that in the past also. So anyway, this just to say that one of the elements of creation is fire. It does go along with lightning, fire and lightning. The sun is. You got to hear the video I did on gravity as an electric source. You have to go back because in there I talked about some of these things. Also, I've talked about the invention that I have. We'll get to that also. The sun is an electric light bulb. It's not a big lava thing that science is wrong. It's garbage. And I have dreams proving that. Also, I have an invention design, which also proves that the sun is an electric light bulb. So anyway, I'm just trying to say that lightning and electricity and fire are in the same element. So that's why I put dominion over fire, even though I've not seen that myself. I've seen lightning power and extreme electrical power in my dreams that God has given me. But I haven't seen fire in that way. But like I say, okay, so we'll move on. Okay, dominion over earth. Here's a way that's going to catch some people off guard. You got to stop and think about this. Now look at the verse down at the bottom, Colossians 2, verse 3, in whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Now, you're probably going to say, why didn't I use the verse about command this mountain to move and throw itself into the sea? We'll get to that. We're going to get there next. But you have to realize when you have dominion over the earth, that's an element of creation. When Jesus told Peter to go get the gold coin from the mouth of the fish, it's because he caused it to be there, because Jesus had power over the elements of creation. And so moving mountains is dirt. Mountains are dirt. Gold is made of dirt. Silver is dirt. Oil is dirt. everything that is the basis for our real monetary system is made from the elements of dirt. So if you have power over dirt, then you can command dirt in the form of money, gold, silver, currency to move to people. You can actually do that, okay? So you have to realize what's going on here. And again, this is where I say a lot of people have missed it completely because they don't realize what they're actually doing. You don't stop to think. Money, if you can move dirt, you can move money. You can do that. And supernatural financial miracles are in my lineage. I'm in the Elijah lineage. And so miracles of financial multiplication are in my lineage. So I've had people give me thousands of dollars in the past, and some are currently doing that right now. And unless they do something they're not supposed to do, I expect them, because it's in my lineage, I expect them to get a miracle of provision. There could be, right now it's August 25th, 2024, and there are a lot of people talking prophetic words that there's going to be a major disaster coming to the United States, and it's because we didn't learn from the virus. We didn't learn. God sent that, and there were reasons he sent it, and the church didn't learn. And so God has to bring another disaster and hope this time the church is actually going to get the lesson straight because they haven't. And so there's going to be a lot of bad things coming. And you don't even have to go there. You can just go back to, I think it's Isaiah, where he talks about gross darkness coming over the earth. And that's when the sons of God are supposed to manifest. We're supposed to have glory powers, which is what this is. Supernatural marvel abilities are glory powers. And as the earth gets worse and worse and more evil, we are supposed to have the glory of God operating through us. Okay, we're supposed to. So you can go back to Isaiah. If you one way or the other, we're supposed to have this. It doesn't matter how you look at it. We are supposed to have this now. But if you don't go the process, through the right process, you won't have it. You're going to be repeating all these words. You're going to be singing the song about being like Elijah, but no one's actually going to be doing it. You're not going to, because you're not getting the message straight. You got to go through the process and get with it with this. Otherwise, you're going to miss the whole thing. You're going to keep singing about Elijah, but you're not going to actually do what he did. Okay, so dominion over earth includes money. And I did talk about glory wealth in my ebook very clearly, because I have something we're going to get to. We're getting to that slide that relates to that. It does relate to that. So now we can finally deal with the thing you expected me to deal with just in the last slide. Okay, mind moving and atomic faith. Okay, look at that image very carefully. We are supposed to be able to move things with our mind by faith. Okay, it's called atomic faith. Why? Because you have to get the revelation of protons from Apostle Taylor. I've talked about this so many times, I'm not even going to deal with it here. Plus, I did get into it in the electric gravity video I did. I talked about it there. Okay, Mark 11:23. This is where Jesus said, he was not talking a parable. This was literal. Okay, unless you're at the baby level, you're going to think this is a parable. If you're at the sonship level, you'll know he was talking literally. Okay, for verily I say unto you that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith. Okay, if you can speak a lot of things, but you don't actually believe it, and this is what we're learning, this is a major element of manifesting marvels. You must actually develop the faith before you speak. And in some cases, you don't even have to open your mouth, because you move it with your mind. You're moving things with your mind. Yes, it's what they did in Star Wars with the Force. Okay, we'll stop and think here before you swallow your tongue and choke to death having convulsions because of what I just said. God creates all powers, all supernatural powers. Just because the devil counterfeits them and uses them, the devil doesn't create anything. He only uses what God already made available. So if you're going to dumb down to that level and say, well, you see witchcraft people doing things, yeah, that's because you're powerless. And that just shows your church is powerless, and you got nothing to show the world. We are all supposed to have these abilities. And it came from God. I went very clear in my explanation of this in my ebook. So if you're wondering about that, you need to go back and see how I explain this whole thing. We are supposed to be able to do this because God does it, and we're supposed to do it also. Jesus caused things to be moved without having to, just by thinking. We're supposed to be able to. When he turned the water into wine, that was That was dominion over an element creation. He turned water into wine by thinking. You don't see him praying. You don't see him making a declaration. You don't see him speaking. He didn't say, let this water become wine. He didn't even say anything. He did it by thinking. That's how we're supposed to be able to think. And in order to do that, you must first develop your belief, your faith. You have to, that's why I say atomic faith. It's a serious effort. You must seriously work on this. If it didn't require such extreme training of your mind, training of your thoughts, training of your level of faith. If it didn't require that, then some of us, especially me included, should have been able to make this happen much easier a long time ago. Well, we haven't. Why? Because the level of training is extreme. It's very extreme. And if you're not going to put the effort into that, then you're not going to have it. And so you're going to wonder why you don't have it, because you haven't done this. Okay, so I have to really, really emphasize this. You really have to go through, you have to really make this a priority. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Okay, so we are supposed to be able to move things with our mind. Okay, let's move on. That leads into multiplication. Okay, and this goes back to, like I said, the financial miracle in the Elijah lineage, multiplication. What did the widow have? First of all, Elijah she had to give first to him. That's why I say financial miracles are in my lineage. And it has to operate a certain way. You first have to give. And then it says, believe in the prophets and you will prosper. So you have to first give, and then in return, you'll get a miracle. Now, I've had people give me thousands of dollars, and I have seen them have results because of that, because I'm in the Elijah lineage. You must expect these things to happen. Because I'm in the lineage, I know this stuff is going to happen when people give to me, and it has to be something significant. It can't be just a $5 or $10, and you have a lot more than no. You have to give a significant amount, and then you'll receive a miracle. If you don't give a significant amount, you're not going to get a miracle. You have to do according to the pattern of 1 Kings 17, Elijah and the widow. That's the pattern you have to follow. If you want a miracle, that's what you have to do. I've done this myself. I had to do this to get the invention, the knowledge of the invention. I had to do that myself. I've given up like 95% of all my money. I've given up almost everything. And so that's why I have this massive invention. Now I have the details of it. I explained in another place how I gave a glimpse of how the details came. It wasn't like I was expecting. And we can get into that later. But I have the details. It's ready to go. And that deals with another slide we're going to get to here. So multiplication, we are expected to multiply things now, especially in cases where if the prophecies I've been hearing about another very big disaster coming, not just to the U.S., but also to the world in only a few months from now, that would be a really great time to have developed the faith to multiply things. Be really great, because at that time, if you don't have this, you're going to be screwed big time. You're going to really be in trouble. I really have to emphasize, you're going to be in serious trouble if you cannot have multiplication of provision and miracles in your life. You're going to be in serious trouble if the prophecies are going to play out the way I've been hearing from multiple sources. And I believe a lot of that is actually true. What's going to happen. Okay. All right. So now Jesus was rebuking the disciples on the boat. Matthew 16, verse 9, he said, "Do ye not understand, neither remember the 5 loaves and the 5,000, how many baskets ye took up?" See, they were talking about bread. They were all afraid. He started telling them something, and they immediately jumped into fear and thinking he was telling them because they didn't bring any bread on the boat ride they were in to go across the Sea of Galilee. Now, I got to admit, I've had problems with faith in this area because God had put me in a situation of having to live off nothing for such a long time. Honestly, you just get tired after a while. And so I've had plenty of opportunities to develop faith for money. And when you're in a wilderness, you only get enough to get by. You don't get more than enough. You only get just enough. And I've been in this just enough thing for such a long time. I tell you, this has been a battle on and off with having faith. One day, yes, or 1 minute, yes, and an hour later, no. Faith comes by hearing. And faith can come and go. It can leave. Just as easily as it comes, it can leave. So that's why you got to train your mind. That's why I say this is a whole process. So we've been learning at JMMI, been learning all about this process you must go through. It's hard. It's really hard because you got to totally defy everything you see with your natural eyes. You got to shut that off. And it's been a very rough process for me to learn that. But I have made progress. So anyway, but you got to train yourself, and it could take a while. For me, it's taken years for me to get to the point where I don't have a total meltdown and just totally lose it completely because the bank account says zero or says $5, and I need something that's costs a lot more than that right now. I mean, you have no idea how bad it's been. Especially the last year and a half, it was the most horrible experience of my life. And and I really found out then that, I had developed a certain level of faith before that. When I got to what happened during the last year and a half, I found out that God was trying to bring me to another level, and I didn't have it. And I had to go through, it was hell trying to get to the point where I could develop that faith that I thought I had. But it was just that he gave me a much harder test. And when I got to that harder test, I totally failed it. Like, unbelievable. It was bad. So we're supposed to go from faith to faith and from glory to glory. We're supposed to improve. And so anyway, it's a process. So let's move on. Now, here's one you probably heard of. In Acts 8:39, Philip did this. And you can see it at the bottom. Philip just disappeared from one place and appeared in another. Hyperspeed transport, or you could say instant transport. There's, hyper jumping, that kind of thing. I just gave it my own name, hyperspeed. You see with the movies like Flash, he runs super fast. Elijah outran the chariot. He had super speed in the form of running. But I had dreams, and I've talked about this, of course. Almost all the slides here again are dreams that I've had, except for the one with fire. Everything I'm showing you here, I've had dreams about. So I have had lots of dreams about this. Actually, hyper jumping, you point to a place and you instantly transport there. And in other places, I've actually seen light speed travel, like going from planet to planet or star to star. And that one, I've talked about how I've had some of my dreams go across from technology to supernatural, and you can do both. You can, I've talked about how light speed travel is actually possible with certain kinds of technology that God showed me. My invention is going to give the possibility of light speed travel. It's going to make that possible. And I don't want to get into a technical explanation of that here, but bluecuberocket.com, my website for the invention, I've talked about this. But it's also supernatural. So you can do things through supernatural abilities or through technology. So in some cases, so hyperspeed transport, it's a dual manifestation type thing. And I've seen many times. Some of it was technology, some of it was supernatural. Okay, let's move on. Now, here's one. I've had several dreams about flying, actual flying, and it was me in the air doing it. I was doing it. And so the Bible verse here, now this is one you have to kind of look closely. You don't see people flying in the Bible. However, you do see people like Ezekiel in chapter 8, verse 3, where God took him, he said, and he put forth the form of a hand and took me by the lock of mine head, and the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and heaven. So Ezekiel went straight up in the air. And if you ever heard a prophet from a couple decades ago, John Paul Jackson, God did the same exact thing with him. Yanked him straight up into space, put him right back down on earth. And when he came down to earth, he was 3,000 years in the past. And he spoke face to face in person with King David. And he smelled the smells. He was literally there. He was literally physically in 3,000 years in the past in the time of the Old Testament. And he literally met King David. John Paul Jackson, a recent modern day prophet. So I don't have a good example in the Bible of flying, but a lot of you probably had dreams of flying, didn't realize God was trying to show you, it's about overcoming in the symbolic sense, in the parabolic sense, and it's not supposed to stay there. You're literally supposed to be able to fly. And I've had many confirmations of this. And I've had, like I said, this was another dream where it was so real, it was so natural, like I didn't even think twice that flying was normal. It was like physically, you could get up like Superman and fly, just like the image I did here. This guy's actually a parachuter, but you can see, it's hard to find good images of people flying. It's usually, of course, it's computer graphics, but this was really good because I just thought that was great. Also, if you read the first dream I had about, the second dream I had about flying, I said right in there that I was parachuting, I was skydiving without a parachute. and I landed on a runway just like an airplane, but it was me. I was not an airplane. It was just me flying like Superman. So this is actually a really good image that relates right to my dream. Okay, so you can actually fly. And if you read Michael Van Vlymen's book, Supernatural Transport, he's done that many, many, many times. It's a really good book. Very simple. Doesn't get into a ton of detail biblically and all that. Doesn't get into a full explanation of marvels and that kind of thing. But he's got a great testimony in there. It's very simple. It's a fun book to read. Like I say, not overly deep, but you can see that there are other people that God has shown the ability to fly and transport supernaturally, like Philip did. There's other people out there that have done this. Bruce Allen also, one of the first people I think that's been doing this in recent times. Bruce Allen. Solomon Sid Roth, he was explaining this. Okay. Okay, invisibility. Yes, I saw this. I turned invisible myself in a dream. And God used a superhero from the 1981 TV show, The Greatest American Hero. He used him. It was me and him. We both merged together. And I was seeing him turn invisible is actually me. You can do that. Jesus did that. Okay, Luke 24, verse 31, and their eyes were opened, and they knew him, and he vanished out of their sight. In another case, he walked through people when they were trying to kill him and throw him off a cliff because he offended them as usual. But invisibility is real. Think about it. As evil as some of our places are on Earth, and definitely in the U.S., you really need to be able to turn invisible and escape from a situation sometimes. You really need that. So I have seen myself turn invisible in dreams, and it was very natural. Okay, moving on. Wisdom as Solomon. Okay, Proverbs 8, verse 12. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence and find out knowledge of witty inventions. That translation you will only find in the King James. I looked in other translations, and they water it down, and it's just horrible because they miss the whole point that the King James brings out, that with wisdom, God will give you the knowledge of witty inventions. And that's why I put one of the logos I created for the invention right here. And if you look at that very, very, very closely, you will see exactly what we are building. It's right there. I couldn't make it any more clear, but it's hidden in plain sight, because you can look at that and you'll never guess what it is. You'll never guess what we are doing by looking at that. But that's what we're doing. That's what it is. And you see the dream on the image on the right, the Pleiades stars. Go back to the dream I explained on the Pleiades power station. I got to redo that video, by the way. I didn't like the video I did a few years ago. I had to redo it. That's another really big one. The Pleiades power station, one of the first dreams I ever had about the invention to power a planet. And that's what it was. Okay, wisdom is Solomon. Okay, that kind of wisdom is a marvel ability. It's a supernatural marvel. That level of wisdom, I have it. And I was shocked because I asked Apostle Taylor wanted us to tell him the dreams we had about marvel abilities, and I said, "Well, does the dreams about the invention count?" He said, "Yes." Solomon had a marvel in that area. He said that level of wisdom to build things. Okay, the key is building. Solomon built a lot of stuff. And building is, now Solomon is in my lineage. I got so many people in my lineage, it's crazy. But Solomon had a marvel ability of wisdom. It was way beyond anything. That's why he could build all this stuff, and he understood nature and science and animals. He could talk to them, all this kind of stuff, because he had a marvel ability. He had many marvel abilities. Actually, he had a lot of them, and you only find out how many he really had by listening to the ancient writings on Tuesday night at GMMI, or in the book of Jasher. I think it's in Jasher. It tells a lot of crazy stuff. He had stuff that the Bible doesn't say anything about. It's pretty amazing. You got to hear all the other stuff he had. But anyway, Solomon had a marvel ability of wisdom. Now, that leads to something else here. We're not there yet. Okay, we're going to get there in a couple slides. But hold on to that thought. We're going to get there. Okay, another supernatural marvel is God trains you and brings you up to the level of a divine emperor. So we're supposed to be kings, yes, but an emperor is a king over all their kings. And so an emperor is higher than just a king. And, in the Bible it says, Revelation 1, verse 5, I think, Jesus made us kings and priests. We're supposed to be kings, yes, but you still have to go through a process to become a king. You have to start off at the level of a prince first, and then develop to a king, and then develop to an emperor. And actually, guess what? You can go beyond emperors. And I found out that that way back in the beginning, I talked about... Wait, did I talk about that? Yes, I did. There's a level beyond marvels, and it has to do with being a father. Now, God, of course, God is a father, but we are made in his image and likeness. What he is, we're supposed to be made also on a lower level. And I had a dream showing me that I am called to the position of a father, and it's a supernatural thing. I was shocked. Abraham had that. He was the father of many nations. So a divine emperor, he was also a divine emperor. Solomon was also a divine emperor. And so, we miss these kind of things because if you don't have the right level of teaching, where I keep talking about, you're going to miss all this stuff. Okay, but look down below, John 1, verse 12. But as many as received him, this is talking of Jesus, to him gave he power to become sons of God, even to them that believe in his name, Jesus, of course. Okay, look at what it says. It says, gave he power to become sons of God. It doesn't mean you instantly are a son of God. It means you must go through a process to become a son of God. That's what sonship is. Okay, and when you further get into this whole teaching on sonship and divine emperors in the future, a divine emperor in eternity, God gives you an entire planet. Why do you think I gave it why the image of a solar system here? Because you get an entire planet to rule in eternity. But if you don't reach that point now, you don't go through the training now, you don't get it in eternity. You have to go through that process now. And God already showed me in the prototype iPhone upgrade dream several years ago, way back. I explained this in the Marvel Dream Revelations ebook. He showed me I'm a prototype. A prototype is a divine emperor. A prototype means in eternity you get a planet, you get your own planet. That's pretty shocking stuff. So it's beyond the level of just a king. And again, you have to go through the process to become. You don't just instantly get that. You're not just handed to you. It's not a cheap thing. You have to pay a very high price to get these things. It's not like the church said, they just think you just get everything instantly. No, they don't. They're idiots. Stop listening to them. That's why they don't have it. That's why they don't have any power. They can't control the elements of creation because they don't have it. They don't have it. Okay, you either have it or you don't. All right. Now, here's one you probably hadn't thought of. There is a level of dreams that is a marvel ability. I have that. I was shown that. I actually had a dream where Apostle Taylor was talking to me, and he said something to me about dreams, and he was asking me a question about my ability to interpret dreams, and did I? In other words, he was asking me, was my ability to interpret, was my dreaming ability? Where was I? He was kind of questioning me on that. And so I found out later that there is a realm of being a dreamer that is a marvel ability, and that's something I have. I have that. A dreamer of dreams is a marvel manifestation. So that I have. I've got I tell people sometimes I did a little research. I looked through all the dreams because I write them down. I write all my dreams down, first of all, like I've been saying for years to do that. And I went back and I did an estimate of, first of all the pages of dreams and electronic documents. How many pages of dreams? 8.5 by 11 sheets, electronic. I have over 1,000 pages of dreams that I've written down since 2014. On average, I have 4 dreams per page. So if I only had 1,000, I have beyond 1,000 pages, but so 4 times 1,000 is what? 4,000 dreams. I have beyond that now because I did that estimate over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. And so I've interpreted over 3,000 dreams for people, but I myself have written down more than 4,000 dreams. It's probably closer to 4,500 dreams, at least by now. That is a supernatural marvel ability, a dreamer of dreams, like Joseph. Daniel had it also. So that's a marvel ability, a dreamer of dreams. When you're at that level, then it's a marvel ability. If it's just regular dreams every now and then, that's not it. It's got to be at a certain level. Okay, so that's something I have, and that's kind of something I overlooked for a long time because I didn't quite grasp that. You can have, there's a teaching on dominion over the future in dreams from JMMI. That's a Marvel ability, having dominion over the future in your dreams. And that is something I have. I even had a dream showing me I had that, which was crazy. And in the dream, I was shocked. It was all symbolic. It had to do with being on the moon, because the moon represents dreams, and having a bunch of beds set up on the moon. And I was seeing them up close, and beds represent sleep, dreaming, and the moon, dominion over the future, because it's okay. Go back to the verse in Psalms in the beginning. God has put all these things, the sun, moon, stars, under our feet. The elements of creation He's put under our feet. And literally, I was standing on the moon. It was literally under my feet. And so that was showing me I had the ability to control the future by my gift of dreaming. It's a Marvel gift. Okay, so now here we go. Deuteronomy 13, verse 1, if there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder. Now, there are signs and wonders with a dreamer. There are signs and wonders with a prophet. They're two different things. They're not the same. And Apostle Taylor has a teaching on the signs and wonders of dreamers and prophets at the office of a dreamer. He talks about the differences between the signs and wonders of a dreamer and the signs and wonders of a prophet. They're not the same. They're different. They complement each other, but they're not the same. Okay. So now, you see, look, I give credit to the source. I'm not a liar like one of these idiots out there. I'm not a liar. I give credit to the source. Now here, let's move on. Anti-aging. This was actually one of the earlier dreams I had. It kind of shocked me at the time, but I saw that I have supernatural anti-aging. Now, where do you get that from? Deuteronomy 34, verse 7. And Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated. Okay, you see, I put a runner on there because, when you're like 50, 60, 70 years old, you don't think of running as a 20-year-old. But I'm just trying to show you supernatural strength and glory manifestations of anti-aging. That's a glory power, a glory manifestation. Anti-aging is supernatural. Moses had it, but the funny thing is Joshua did not. If you read closely, it says he was old and stricken in years. So Joshua did not have anti-aging, but Moses did. And that's something I was shown in dreams. I have anti-aging. Pretty shocking stuff. So again, I explain that in the Marvel Dream ebook that I wrote. And so anti-aging is a glory power. All right, now here we go. This is something I saw once. I did explain this in the past. It is in one of my videos and in the ebook. Solid object phasing. Now, what that really means is that's like a modern day term. Again, these are modern day supernatural Marvelic abilities. Modern day. It's in the Bible, yes, and we're expected to do them now. So I call it solid object phasing because that's more of a modern day word. Where, like, okay, in the Flash series, the Flash DC Comics, the series, not the movie. I didn't like the movie at all. I thought it was stupid. But the series, the 9-season series, with what's his name, Grant. What's his name? Anyway, the guy who plays the Flash, he does a really great job. The series, the DC Comics series on CW TV network, it's also on Netflix. They call it phasing. When he runs through something, they call it phasing. And I thought, well, that's pretty good. I kind of thought that was, people can relate to that. And walking through walls, that's really what it is. Running through walls. I tried to get a better image for this. I didn't quite really like the image I came up with, but you can get the idea just from running through walls. Kind of tried to approximate that in this image. So I've seen that one time in dreams, and just going right through a big, thick, solid wall, very thick, just right through it as if there was nothing to it. So, okay. So, and of course, Luke chapter 4, verse 30, speaking of Jesus, but he passing through the midst of them went his way. Okay, that's what I was going to come back to. We read that and you think he passed through the midst of them, like he must have walked through the crowd like we do. No, he was actually, and Michael Van Vlymen has done this in his book, Supernatural Transport. He actually walked through people in one point too, where he was in a drunk crowd, I don't know if it was a rock concert or something, people out just drunk and all this kind of stuff, and he literally walked right through them, and those people saw him walk through them, and they got all disturbed because he just literally walked through them as if they weren't even there. So I'm just saying, this is an ability. You can walk through walls. You can walk through solid objects. I have not done this myself, and I'm talking about things I've seen in dreams. I haven't even got to manifestations yet. Some of these I have not manifested yet, and that's why I'm in this process of trying to get this stuff to happen, which is, again, I talked about phase 2, the next ebook, and all that stuff I'm going to do. That's going to be manifestation. So anyway, solid object phasing, yes, you can do that. Yes, I've seen it in dreams. Okay, so there are many other abilities beyond what I've seen, and I finally did hear people on the JAMA, my staff, tell what their dreams were and what they saw. And they had stuff that goes beyond what I've talked about here. They have different things that I hadn't even thought of before. They had controlling air in different ways, controlling water in different ways that I never even thought of before. And so I'm not the only one with this. Like I said, I'm surprised I was even getting these to begin with. And there are people on the staff. A lot of them have tons of dreams of Marvel abilities, tons of them. There is one girl, actually, she did, speaking of phasing, she did have something happen. Where she was going to get hit by a car, and instead of hitting her, it went right through her. That was in real life. That was not a dream. And that only happened in the last couple of years. One of the girls on the JM of my staff, literally a supernatural marvel actually manifested, where a car didn't hit her, it went right through her. She was in a car, and there was going to be a car accident, and she had her kid in the back seat, I think, and the car went right through her, and no accident at all. So there are people having manifestations right now. Not a lot of manifestations, not as many. Most people we're still in kind of like the dream realm where we're trying to make this stuff happen. But anyway, okay, I wanted to explain all these, and before I started posting them, and just wanted to make a video about them. So that concludes everything. I just want to do this update. I felt like it's been a while since I was able to do a good video and just talk about anything going on. And so that is good enough for now. So thanks for listening. If you haven't got my ebooks, or you haven't got the video series, this is going to be part of it. And when I do videos on Marvel abilities now, I only keep them up publicly for a little while, and then I make them unlisted, private, because it's part of the series that I have listed on my store page. So go to the store page, and you can see how to get the rest of this whole series that I started in 2021. I have there's over 20 videos now, and it goes along with that ebook. So go back to my store page, chrismichaels.com, and you'll see where I have the rest of the stuff that I've been talking about posted in videos or in the ebook format. And so okay, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And thanks for taking my advice and really getting serious about this. Okay, we'll talk to you again soon. God bless.